Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, my tutorial. In this tutorial, I was looking at the design elements that we have in Archicad and I figured out after I made a tutorial about the stair tool, I didn't make another one for the railing tool. In this tutorial, I want to talk about the railing tool in Archicad. So I'm gonna going back to the stairs that I drew to explain the stair tool, and I'm gonna use the railing tool to make railings for these stairs. So let's learn, practice, and share. These are the basic stairs I explained on the stair tool tutorial, which if you want to know how did I draw these, you can click right up here on this card and you can watch the tutorial about the stair tool. And if that was helpful, don't forget to hit the like button. So I'm selecting the railing tool and I'm going to setting dialog to see what options do we have to design a railing. First, we have some templates to select between all the styles of the railing. Here we have only 5, but we could have various styles by editing these 5 basics. So I'm going to select the metal railing, which the default is this one. So I'm gonna apply, and on the segment, we see that we have this type of railing. On the railing tab, we could select the distance to the ground or to the stairs. Then here we can set the nodes and segments style to draw. To be honest, I couldn't find any major difference between these two. Since the default is associative, I'm going to put both on associative. Then we could set the project 0, which we draw every element on the selected floor, so we don't need to change to the project 0. And on the floor plan display layouts, we could select a different style to show the lines or the layouts of the railing on the 2D plan. This is not something that I want to explain right now. We can select each one and you can see the difference. And based on the style that you are working in your country, you can select a different style. Then on the floor plan symbol, we could select that which elements do we want to see on the plan. So I'm not gonna uncheck this box because I want to have all of these. Then here we have floor plan symbols overrides, which you can set a different color or different feel for the railings. And of course, you can select brake marking. If you have brake marking on the stairs, you can have it for the railings too. Here, after railing, we have two major sections. The first one is the segment, and the second one is the nodes. In this tutorial, I'm just gonna explain what is each segment and what does it do. And for the next tutorial, I'm going to explain one by one and the custom elements that we can use on these elements. So on the segment, basically we could see all the elements that we have for the railings, which is the top rail, handrails, rails, inner post or blasters, and of course the panel that we could have here instead of inner posts. On this setting, we could set the height of the railing, we could set the distance from the reference line that we are drawing the railing with, we could set an angle to the floor or to the surface and the relative to the vertical angle. This one is a little bit important because like we were using reference line to draw the walls, we also use the reference line to draw the railings. Later on, I'm going to explain this part much better. And this amount is the offset of the railing to the reference line. On the segment pattern, this segment, we could set a specific number for the segment division, which I rather to work as one segment so I can control it much better. Then we could set a fixed length to the segment Then we could set a max length for this segment to have an equal distribution on the length. Then when we put on the fixed length, we have four other options, which is start the segment with the starting point, start the segment in the middle, or we could align to the center and have equal length from the start to the end of the railing. And then we could have the starting pattern from the end point. To understand this setting better, I'm gonna hit OK. And I'm coming down to this stir, which is the most simple one. This stir, I used it on the project that I'm making my tutorials. So I'm gonna start with this one. We have two options to do. First, we could select the starting point of the railings and we could follow the lines that we want to have the railings, or we could hold down the space key to the edge of the staircase and we could have the railings just by one click. There you go. Now I have railings for the stairs almost by just one click. If I look closer to the railing that I just drew, you will see that this railing has an offset to the edge. And if I want to do the same for this side of the stair, if I do the space and click, you see that this stairs is off the stairs. And to fix this, selecting the reference line and the offset amount will be helpful. So I'm going to select only this stair, going to the setting dialog, and here I can change the reference line. And if I wish, I can set a different offset amount for this railing. I'm going to hit OK. And as you see, this stair comes inside of the stair area. And of course, it has a 10 centimeter of the offset. As you see, the handrail is on the wrong side of the railings. So I'm going to fix this when I'm going to explain the handrail. So I'm going to select the first railing that I drew, then going to the setting dialog. And by selecting the top rail, we could see that this top rail is turned to green. It means that it is selected for us and these settings is related to this part. On the first tab, we have four main styles of the top rail. And if we select this profiled rail, we could select a different profile for the railings instead of these options. I'm gonna explain this profiled rail on the next tutorial, which I'm gonna explain how to draw a custom top rail or handrails and how to apply it to the railings. On the default setting, we could select this type of top rail for the railings. And of course, we could change the dimensions according to the core of the railings. We could set a different material to this railing. And if we wish, we could set a plate under this railing, which I don't think it's necessary, but Archicad provides the options to do that. And the next one is the fixing, which we can use while we don't want to have this post to connect the railings to the floor. We could use some fixing and we could build the railings to the wall next to the stair. So on the handrails, we have the same options. We could set the height of the handrails according to the height of the railings. So here the handrail is 90 centimeter, but the top rail is on 1 meter. Then on the handrails, we could set that this handrail should be on the left side, on the right side, or on both sides. We use this one usually while we are landscaping and we have a very wide stair, and we use this type of railing in the middle of the stairs. To fix these railings, which is on the other side, I'm gonna select this railing, then I'm coming to the setting dialog, and on the handrails, I should just click on the right side and then I hit OK. Now the handrails change to the right side. I'm going to continue on with this railing. Then, as we had for the top rail, we could select different profiles for this element. And of course, if we don't need to have handrails and we want to use the top rail as a handrail, we could just click on this minus button and this element will be removed for the handrail. I'm going to also uncheck the fixing because on the default handrail has fixing and you can check it on this preview. So I'm going to uncheck this fixing and then move on to the rails. These rails is used as a bar to finish these inner posts and balusters of the railing. So if you want, you can remove it or you can add another one by clicking on the plus button. And of course, we have the same options to select the profile. This is the distance from the ground floor, and this is the distance from the reference line of the railing. So the rest seems the same as I just explained. So I'm moving on to the inner post. The inner post is the post that we use along the railings from the bottom to the top or from the start to the end of the railings. And it's different from this post, which applies only to the start and the end. So on this inner post, we also have a different style to create the inner post. We could change the shape, you could change the dimension. For instance, I'm gonna select the square one, and to recognize this one beside these balusters, I'm gonna put it on 4 by 4, and if you wish you can also apply a rotation to this square shape. We could also set the thickness for this post, and I suggest that you put the top ending and bottom ending parallel to the slope that the railings is going. Moving on to the balusters, here we could set the dimension, the distance of this railing, like what we have for the segment tool. We could set a different dimensions for distance from this inner post to another one or even to the beginning post. And the rest is just selecting the distance, for example, here from the left side or the right side. You could have offset from the top, from the bottom, and we could set the number of these segments here. For example, I can turn it to 2, and I want to have just one balusters in between of the posts. Or I could set the fixed pattern between the post, and basically you don't have any limitation to design any railings that you wish. Also, we could set a different style for the balusters, which we usually see this type of balusters on the railings. And on the next tutorial, I would like to explain how to work with the profile and with a custom shape of each element for the railings. Also here, we could set a different style, the dimensions for this type. And moving on to the last one, is the panels. Here we could select a different style for filling this distance between the posts. And as you see here, we have this type of glass panel that if you wish, you can use instead of the balusters or the posts. Then on the second segment, we have nodes. These settings is for setting up where do we have this post. We want the railings comes down and directly connect to the straight railings, or we prefer to have the post exactly at the end or at the beginning of the stairs, and these railings will be shaped differently according to these posts. Also, we could select a vertical or tilted post for the start or the end of the railings. For the connections of these nodes, I usually put it on the smooth segment because I don't like to see these steps on the railings and I prefer smooth handrails. Also here we could select the pattern that we design on the segment. It will end on the nodes on the corners or continue without paying attention to the nodes. Also, on the node, we could select a different setting for the post. As I explained for the segments, we could select different style. we could have different dimensions. And on the connections also, we could set a different style for this type of connections between two part of the railings. Also, we could set that if we want to have, for instance, a larger amount of the curve for the railings. If you want to have the slope railings, or we want to have a flat end on the handrails, and to turn these on, if I come to the first option, we could set a perpendicular angle for endings, or vertical to the ground, or parallel to the ground for these ends. Speaking of end, on the end section, we could also have the same settings. Also, we could add a curve to the end. We could set a degree of where do we want this curve to be turned. And we could also have this type of ending for the rails. So I prefer to use this type. For the connection, I prefer this one, and on the post, I'm gonna put it on the same as it is, and I'm gonna hit OK. As you see, this railing is different from this one. I set a 4 centimeter by 4 centimeter of the inner post, and now it seems that this distance from the starting point to the inner post is too much, and I can change it by going in the setting dialog on the segment. Now it's set to the fixed length, which is 1 meter. To change this number, I have to go to inner post, and here I can change this number to 30 centimeter, which is the length of one step of the stairs. Now I'm hitting OK. And as you see, at the start point of each step, I have an inner post. The rest of working with the railing tool in Archicad is just playing with these numbers and options that you have here. It might seem a little bit difficult, but if you practice once, you will see that this is not very difficult, and you can be very creative to design any type of railings. The last things that I want to mention is on this preview. If you click on each items, you can go to the setting of that element. And if you want to change something here in the middle, you don't need to find on this list. You can just find the settings by clicking on the element. I suggest that you should practice working with the railing tool, and if you have some questions, please write it down on the comments. I'm gonna read all of your questions and answer them immediately. So this is it for the normal stairs. I'm gonna select the basic railings and try to apply to the other stairs. So I'm coming to this stair. I'm gonna deselect this stair by pressing escape on the keyboard. Then here, if I hold down the space key, I can have the railings for this type of stairs. Now I want to move on to the curved stairs. So to do this one, I want to change the railings to something different. So I'm going to select the railings. And for example, I'm going to select the wired railings. Double clicking on that. And now all the settings is set to that railings. So I'm going to hit OK. Then by holding down the space key, I'm going to have this type of railings. Of course, you can change the settings for this type of railings. There's no limitation. And I move on to this one, which has a little bit odd shape. Also, this one, which is not parallel. I'm going to select a different style for these stairs, which is the glass panel. I'm going to double click on that. Okay, holding down the space key. And then we're going to have the glass panel railings on these stairs. This error is because the odd shape of the stairs itself. Of course, it doesn't mean that you cannot fix this, but I don't want to spend time to explain only one error on this tutorial. And of course, for this stair, we can do the same like that. And this is it. We could have different style of railings for any type of stair that we can draw in Archicad. And of course, there's no limitation. You could show your creativity to create an interesting railings in Archicad. Also, on the next tutorial, I would like to explain how to design each element of the railings, how to create it with the profile manager, and we could push the limits of designing with Archicad. So if this is the first time that you are watching my tutorial, please hit the subscribe button. There will be many more interesting tutorials in working with Archicad. And also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit the like button on this video. Have a nice day, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.